Hey everybody, it's Jimmy and Bill. Bill, let's talk about condos, okay?
All right.
The perfect storm. I ran into this article. The perfect storm, hundreds of Florida condos now on a secret mortgage blacklist. Have you heard of that?
Nope.
Okay.
This is going to be a new one for me.
Yeah, so basically there is supposedly a secret list, and you guys comment below, that goes around to all the finance places. And if that building or that condo is on this blacklist, you're not getting financing for it. I don't even know if that's legal.
What?
I'm talking about
All right.
Google it. I'm telling you, Google it.
I'm going to have to now.
Secret Mortgage Blacklist, a confidential list reportedly preventing hundreds of Florida condominium owners from securing mortgages or refinancing their properties.
Is this because maybe the SIRS report or something else?
Yeah, because if the building's old and...
Like, I mean, it's not passing those inspections.
Yeah, if it's not passing those inspections, maybe they made a list, or maybe the repairs are too much because of, because of the, what do you call it?
Just because of the cost. Well, the SIRS report and the integrity.
You're right.
The integrity studies and stuff.
Yeah, the building, if it's older and it's over 3 floors and everything, maybe they're like, you know what? We're not going to get stuck with that, because what if we finance it and the building gets condemned, or they don't have the money to fix it, and now we're stuck with an empty unit.
Right, that'd be the only thing I could think of, but maybe it'll say in here.
Maybe. Impact on condo sales. Being on that list makes it challenging for owners to sell their units, as potential buyers face difficulties obtaining financing. It's true. If you can't finance it, a lot of people, you're limited to cash buyers.
Right.
And that could be a really easy, but it says reasons for blacklisting. Buildings are added to the list due to issues like structural problems, financial instability, failure to meet certain safety standards.
Okay, so that's those basically what we were talking about, the reserve studies and the structural integrity studies.
Yeah, broader implication. The situation contributes to the perfect storm. In Florida, real estate buildings may affect property values and the ability for owners to maintain and improve the building. Maybe they can't fix it. Maybe the building is so gone that it just...
It could just be that it doesn't have to be so far to doomsday. It could just be that it's too expensive. Think about it. Let's say the elevator. Let's just take like a basic common thing that's in a
yeah, because
if
it says, say 10, to say there's 10 condos, I'm just keeping it simple. That means you own 10% of the elevator,
Right, and so you have to replace the elevators at some point. And I said this happened because I think it was like 1280 Gulf Boulevard or something along those lines. Over there on Sand Key, they have, it's like a 13 or 14 story high rise, and they had to replace the elevator. I mean, that's a significant undertaking. And I did see one, I wish I got a video of it, but further down the beach on Indian Rocks Beach, I saw them taking off, like out of the whole, they were demolishing the railway where the hoistway, where the car goes. So I can't imagine how much money that was to peel that thing off the building, put a new elevator system in, and then rebuild it.
That's why some investors are going in there and they're actually buying everybody out and then buying the whole building, knocking it down and building an elaborate, beautiful...
Yeah, they're ultra luxury waterfront condos.
But so why is this such a fire sale? Like I do a lot of inspections on condos. So if you need an inspection or referral for inspection, or even a realtor, my information and Bill's information is below. But why do you think there's such a fire sale? Because like I went to this building and literally I felt like, maybe this is exaggerating, but maybe 30% of the units were for sale. I brought it up on Zillow because I want to do information. Sometimes I'll look at Zillow before I go there and look at the information, how many bedrooms, how many square feet. And I just put the address in, and it's like one after another after another. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, and price reduction,
Right, well, I mean, people selling could be for a bunch of different reasons, but what I'm starting to see, or what we've been seeing, what we have been seeing is, the HOA fees are going up, the condo association fees are going up because of these special assessment, or they're getting a special assessment on top of the increased HOA fees and such, because they've got to make up, because they got to fully fund the reserves, they've got to pay for these repairs, and they've got to catch up so that if, like a fire pump, think about the things that you're not thinking about, right?
Yeah.
The building is sprinkled, so you have to put a fire. Those fire pumps don't last forever.
Right.
So
Because they test them every year, don't they?
well, yeah, they test them every year, but they're charged and so on and so forth. But those systems nothing lasts forever. And, we're talking like 20, 30 plus years down the road, but that's not an inexpensive item to repair or to replace. And they've got to that's why the budget is very important when you're purchasing a condo, is to make sure that it's well funded.
Well, that's the first thing that came up is rising HOA fees are scaring buyers away. Many condo associations are increasing fees due to insurance hikes and maintenance costs. In the meantime, if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing. Listen, I hate asking. I really do. But everybody says you got to ask in order to get, subscribers. So I'm asking. It really motivates us and it really helps out. All right. So basically, another thing is why they're having sales. A lot of people are putting their units up for sale because they're worried about massive special assessment. Condo owners are getting hit with surprise bills for repairs, sometimes in the tens of thousands. So they're like, oh, I hear rumors that we're gonna have to pay, $15,000, $30,000 for a new roof each unit or something. I'm gonna put it up for sale. Are you running into that?
Yeah, but you're still not going to get away from it. So here's the thing. If you live in a condo or you live in an HOA, just in a single family home for that matter, doesn't matter where you live. If you have an HOA or a condo association, you got to be active. You've got to you got to pay attention, because you can be part of the voice that makes the decisions. And then it's not like this stuff didn't sneak up on us. This has been brewing for 5 years.
Yeah.
So if the building still pushed it off for whatever reason, you kind of knew that it was coming. But yes, people, if they can't afford the assessment, they're going to sell. And then it kind of comes down to, because you have to disclose that there's an assessment if you know that there's an assessment. And then you really should get minutes for the last year. You should ask for the minutes for the last year so that as a buyer, you can review them. And then you know what you're getting into. And you may have to pay that assessment. You just don't know, as part of the deal. But that's something that you got to work out per the deal.
Well, that was number 3 on the list. New structural inspection laws after Surfside collapse. Tougher regulations mean older buildings need expensive repairs, driving costs up. Here's the next one. Skyrocketing insurance costs. Florida property insurance crisis make it condos unaffordable for many buyers. See, it's insurance. I keep saying that here's Florida's biggest problems. If these 2 problems ever got solved, this place, everybody would move to Florida, okay? One is insurance costs and property taxes. If you could take care of those 2 issues, other than the humidity too, but you can't take care of that, But that's causing a lot of issues.
Yeah, it really is. But people still move here every day and they find a way.
All right.
It's, and I didn't get a chance to read on it yet, but I did see one of the headlines that popped out that the governor was talking about the issues that the legislation has kind of forced people, because they could be losing their homes. So like I said, I don't know. I didn't get to read it yesterday when I saw it, but there's something coming out that they're trying to address this legislation that came out, that was to protect people, but they also don't want it to be the demise of people as well when it comes to losing your house because you can't afford it anymore. So I'm curious to see what that's all about, but we should do a video on that once we figure it out.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, high mortgage interest rates. Buyers already struggling with high rates are avoiding condos because of the extra monthly costs. HOA fees, special assessment, insurance, and high mortgage. And the finance companies, the mortgage companies are going to be extra cautious on condos.
Of course.
So they're going to look at that building and they're like, hey, tell us, what their report came back in, their engineering report. All right, more inventory means lower prices. As more owners sell, prices are dropping due to a higher supply. 100% true.
Yep.
You get some pretty good deals on some condos right now. I'm not saying the HOA fees are good, but the actual cost of the condo is not that bad.
Right, and when you're looking at HOA, so we provide some value, remember, it's not just the dollar amount, the monthly dollar amount. Look what that HOA fee goes to. So for instance, I was looking at some condos the other day, and the fees actually covered, obviously, the building, maintenance, the pool, blah, 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 all the standard stuff, right? The roof, the paint, all those things were all part of the budget. That's why you have to look at those budgets. However, what else, they also covered internet and cable TV, water, sewer, and trash. So that takes out a lot of money. So let's say it was
That's
$600.
true. That's
You're
true.
really not paying $600. You see $600 or $700 because that's what these association fees really were. They were $630 something, and then $784 was one of the other ones. But it covered all those items. But that's taking off if you really about $300 a month that you would be paying anyway.
All right, what about this one? Cash buyers are looking elsewhere. Those who can afford to buy without loans are choosing townhomes or single-family homes instead of condos.
Well, it depends. So there's the draw that we've talked about in the past for condos, because you can. It's easier to just close it and leave and go on vacation. You know, condos typically draw the older crowd, or our crowd, people who've retired, right? Because they want to travel and they want to do things. So it's really easy just to
Close one door
and lock it, and then off you go.
Right.
You don't have to worry about the lawn and the grass dying and somebody looking at your house and all this, that, and the other that goes along with it. And everything just gets taken care of. So there's a draw to that. So again, but you know, when you start looking at these fees, but then
That's why there's fire sale going on.
you know, but man, you can get some of these crazy fees in townhouses too,
Yeah,
and they don't cover as much.
yeah. All right, what about this one? Hurricane risks and flooding concerns, climate worries, and rising sea levels are making some condos less desirable.
Well, I mean, if we want to stay on the postage stamp of the beach, you know, like that seems to be the hot topic.
The people
There's condos outside the beach, you know.
The people that could afford, right, like say Clearwater Beach being right on there, I don't think they're worried about HOA as much.
But that's what I mean. Like we're kind of mixing that little postage stamp of the beach versus, you know, you come off the beach and then we don't have the same type of flooding risks.
All right, fire sale on condos, maybe about this one. Uncertainty over future regulations. Buyers fear that more restrictions or fees will be imposed in the coming years.
Of course. That's a completely logical, normal concern.
All right, I mean, they're hard to sell because, listen, lenders are rejecting condo loans. Many buildings don't meet the requirements due to financial instability or legal issues. Maybe there's a lawsuit going on.
So just to kind of address some of these things,
Okay.
so that people understand, we're not just reading words. It's, you know, there's disclosures that are required by law, and the seller, just because the seller doesn't know the answer on the property disclosure, they still have to give you the condo docs. The association still has to give you all the paperwork, all the, you know, the covenants, the restrictions, the rules, the regulations, the minutes, the budget. All that stuff needs to be provided to you, because there's a form that you fill out that you got it or you didn't get it. And if you didn't get it, you have time to get it, and you get a 3-day review period. Yep, a 3-day review period. And from the time you receive all the documents, not just one.
So it's not by the time that's on the contract, it's by the time that you actually receive the docs in your hands.
It's the time that you receive the docs in your hands. So if you're missing documents because there's a form that, like, I don't advise my clients to just I know some people just arbitrarily check the box, but I don't check the box until I actually have the docs. That's actually a rhyme. I got to remember that when I'm teaching.
All right.
If you ain't got the docs, don't check the box.
Buyers are avoiding high monthly fees. A combination of HOA fees, insurance, and taxes make condos less appealing. I find that true.
Yeah, could be.
Aging buildings needs major repairs. Many Florida condos were built decades ago and need costly updates. I wouldn't buy an old building unless it's been really done. But so many of those buildings, you know, from the 60s and 70s, I don't know. I wouldn't buy them.
I would approach any sale. I wouldn't say I wouldn't buy in a 60s or 70s building, because I've seen some buildings that were constructed in the 60s and 70s that are in a heck of a lot better shape than some of these new condos that I see. You know, so just as an example, just so people understand and can kind of put a context to what I'm talking about, is, you know, just because it's a condo doesn't mean it's made out of concrete. Condos can be made out of wood too.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so to say, and that thing might have gotten built 2 years ago, but I'm going to pick the concrete building that's been maintained over the wood building all day.
Me too. I agree with that one too. So basically, this is somebody just ran into this. One of my buyers backed out, not because of the inspection. I was on a condo building because they didn't realize that stricter rules on short-term rentals. Cities HOAs are cracking down on Airbnb-style rentals, making condos less attractive to investors. So they wanted to live there, and they want the Airbnb, not live there like, vacation there. And then when they're not there, they want the Airbnb it.
Makes sense. Smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was okay when they first got there, but believe it or not, that Saturday there was a meeting and they did a vote, and now they don't allow Airbnbs.
That's why you got to read the minutes.
It was literally happened.
But a vote doesn't get put onto the. They have to have talked about it to schedule
Yeah,
a vote.
but they found out about it right before,
But you got to read the minutes.
Yeah, that was a close call.
This is why. Thank God they found out about it. But this is why it's a prime example of why it's important to get the minutes and kind of understand really and read the rules, because that kind of a change. Because if they were voting on it that month, that had to be put on. It had to go through the whole process. It's not like it just magically showed up there. They've talked about it at a meeting at some point in time.
You can't always get conventional loans. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac have tightened condo lending rules, limiting to buyers' options. Listen, if you're gonna go buy a condo, go to your mortgage person, mortgage broker, lender, and really get, say I'm thinking about doing this in this building, and really get the down, get a pre-approval, right?
Yeah.
Smart. Pick the building. Tell them, I want to go to this building. Do you guys have any things against it? What am I going to need from this building? Gather the facts.
Yeah, some buildings also have a percentage ownership, meaning that a financing amount, so you can't, you might not be able to do an 80-20. You might need to do a 70-30 loan, things like that. There's buildings that, so there's a condo in Clearwater, because they have a land lease, there's an ownership percentage requirement. You have to do 30%.
I knew somebody that wanted to buy, but they decided not to in a condo in a high rise because of this next reason. High rise living feels riskier post surf site. Some buyers are nervous about potential structural failures. Then some people are just nervous because of the surf site, but there are. I know one person.
That's I wouldn't not live in a condo. There's millions of high rise buildings and millions of condos, and they don't fall down.
But I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
Tragedy.
Yeah, it was a tragedy. I don't blame them for being nervous. If you're nervous, don't buy it. That's the way I'm saying it.
I mean,
okay, resale values are dropping. All prices fall. Sellers are forced to cut their asking prices to compete. There's a lot of pricing cuts happening.
Oh my God, it's horrible. The absorption rate's gone from like 127% down to like 34%. Which means that the condos that are going up aren't coming off as fast. So the higher number means they're coming off market faster. The lower number means that they're sitting on the market longer. Condos are sitting on the market. I literally, I probably showed 15 condos to this couple over the last couple of weeks in a couple different areas. And I mean, every one of it was normal, 127 days, 200 days, 186 days, 183 days. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just there's not a lot of buyers looking for condos.
Yeah, because here's the next one. Okay, condos in some areas compete with single-family homes. In some markets, houses are similarly priced and offer more space and no HOA headaches. So, sometimes the areas are just really expensive.
It just depends, yeah.
Buyers fear of getting stuck with unaffordable unit. The risk of sudden fee increases and assessments keep many people on the sidelines.
That would be probably one of my biggest fears, is an increase. That's what I would really have to look at. I would have to look at a lot of what's going on with that building if I was going to live in a condo, because of all the things I mentioned that most people probably don't think about: fire pump, elevators, lights, balconies, paint, roof, those kind of things. Those are huge, huge items. Think about the roof on a condo. Cranes, taking off the air conditioners, tearing off the roof, partial, half at a time, stairwell. I mean, there's just so much that goes into these things. That's why, you know what, the other one that I saw that was very common is the piping. The piping starts to corrode, so they have to sleeve, because you can't change the pipes, obviously, because it's a condo, they're in the walls. And then they have to sleeve the piping. That's another huge expense that's happened to a couple condos. So there's just a lot that goes into it. That's why they came up with these engineering reports and reserve studies.
Here's my biggest thing. Okay, some HOAs are in financial trouble, mismanagement of buildings with low reserves, scare off buyers who don't want future surprises. Some of these HOAs, like I talk to them to get into the buildings, or you know, and not for nothing, but they don't know what the hell they're doing.
That's why they have a management company.
Yeah, but some of them are just like, you know, it's people that live there and they're just like sitting there like, yeah, well, I have no idea, you know?
Well, they have so the board is still there and they have a management company, but the management rep's not on site 24/7 typically, because that's expensive too, and that's just another fee.
Yeah, but
have to
some
pay.
associations they just take care of everything in-house.
Yeah, but you'd be hard pressed to find one that's a high rise that does that.
Really?
Yeah, because the amount of paperwork and legalities that go into that, they're going to hire a management company. There's no reason that they wouldn't. To do payroll and maintenance, contractors, engineering, and it's a rotating door of board members. I don't think I've ever run across a high-rise condo which means 4 stories or above. Well, technically to the state now it's 3 and above, but I don't think I've ever run into one that didn't have a management company.
All right.
In our area anyway.
At the end of the day, me buying a condo, unless it's like a unicorn one that I'm like, okay, it's less than 3 stories, it's new, it's in a great location, I would be nervous about buying. What's your take? You sell them.
Right, you have to be cautious. You really, really do, going into a condo. And like I said already, just to reiterate it, if I would make sure that building is solid. And what I mean by that is like really looking at the budget, looking at the reserves, making sure the reserve study is legit, because you don't want, and if you're so tight, like, oh my gosh, if another $100 a month comes up, I can't do this, you should probably not be purchasing right now, to be honest with you.
I agree.
You know, and I get it, if you're hitting that retirement and you're on a fixed budget, it's tough. But at the same token, it might be better than a house, because house expenses can typically be more, you know, it just depends. So just be cautious. Don't just go, I'm going to buy this and I love it. There's a lot more that goes into it.
If you have a question about it, our contact information is below. We can answer most questions and everything. And that's today's video. Do me a favor, like I asked, you know, like I said, I hate asking, but consider subscribing. It really helps out. Check out this video over here. I picked it out just for you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you on the next video. Thanks.